Celeste originally started on the Pico 8 game for a game jam, but the developers liked the game so much that they decided to make it into a full game. Today I'm going to be doing a retrospective on Celeste. Sub if you enjoy. Celeste gameplay is simple, but it's good that way. The only controls are dash, jump, and grab. And you may think that makes the game simple, but trust me, you would be wrong. There are some movement tech like supers, hypers, ultras, and wall bounces. Also, each chapter has their own gameplay gimmick, which makes the game interesting. The traffic block wall moves when standing on, which is pretty simple, but I kinda have to give it a break because it's the first chapter. The dream block is great. It is so satisfying to zoom across the room. If you don't know what it is, the dream block is when you dash in it, it continues your dash through the block. Instead of helping you, sludge kills you. It is like a spike, but there's many types of sludge, like moving sludge, which you can probably figure out what that is. There is sludge spawning tiles, which spawns sludge under you. All around, sludge is fine. It's a little annoying. Let's start with the wind. Wind will move you in the direction that it's blowing, which I love. I know a lot of people hate it, but good, I guess. Now about the trigger platform. Trigger platforms move when you stand on it, but you can control these platforms left and right by the arrow. By the way, trigger platforms are fine. The blue bubble is basically another dash, and to help explain in more detail, when you go in it, it will let you dash in a direction of your joystick. And yeah, they're boring. Trigger blocks are amazing. What they do is move when you dash. It may seem simple, but it's very unlimited possibilities. Theo is a person in a glass box. I'll talk more about him later in the story section. But what you do with Theo? Well, you have to carry him while these bugs go for you. Theo is kind of a pain, but it was designed that way. Red bubbles are like blue bubbles, but they continue your dash until you hit a wall or you dash out of it. All around, red bubbles are a lot better than blue bubbles. Feathers are really cool. When you jump into a feather, you fly in all different directions with your joystick for a limited time. Kevins move you in the direction that you dash into them. And yes, I love Kevins. Bumpers are what they sound like. They bump you in the direction that you hit them. Yeah, chapter 7 has every gimmick from each chapter, well, 1 through 6. No dash refill is the big gimmick of chapter 8, and yeah, you can't refill your dash, which is cool, I guess. Fire and Ice is 2 themes that are in the level. You can change the themes by clicking the button. Let's start with the fire theme. There are fireballs, which kill you if you touch them, fire bumpers, which kill you if you touch them, magma blocks, which move slightly in the direction that you're standing on them, and finally conveyor walls, which shoot you up when grabbing the wall. Now, ice theme. First, the fireball turns into the ice ball, which is like the fireball, but you can jump on top of it. The fire bumper turns into the bumper, which I've already told you what it does. The magma block turns into the ice block, which just sinks when interacted with. Lastly, the conveyor wall turns into the ice wall, which it's a wall with no traction. The jellyfish is the best gimmick item in the game. Now, what does it do? Oh, it's just a parachute. Now, what about the pufferfish? The pufferfish is kind of like a bumper, but if you jump on top of it, you actually jump instead of it hitting you. And if you go to the side of it, it shoots you. Celeste's music is not just amazing, it's probably the best music in all of video games. Some of my favorite songs are Mellow, Resurrection, Celeste Resort Good Karma Mix, Beyond the Heart, Star Jump, Now, who made all of these amazing music? Well, Leah Rain. If you don't recognize that name, you may recognize this. So, yeah, if you didn't recognize that song, well, it's Big Step in a very small game called Minecraft. And the cool part is that Celeste was Leah Rain's start music in video games. She conducts music for the biggest game of all time. Celeste is a hard game, but that's what makes Celeste fun. Well, what makes Celeste hard? Well, Celeste is a precision platformer, meaning that a lot of inputs take precision, but it doesn't start that way. Now, how is the game's progression? Well, Chapter 1 starts well, easy, very easy, but at the end of the chapter, it gets a decent amount harder. Chapter 2 is really not that much of a jump compared to the end of Chapter 1. It does get a little harder when you get to the battling part, but that's about it. Chapter 3 is a big jump with addition of cycles, and it gets even harder in the elevator shaft. Chapter 4, in my opinion, is easier than Chapter 3. Also, the difficulty stays the same throughout the whole chapter. Chapter 5's beginning is, well, a little harder than Chapter 4's, but still not harder than Chapter 3, but the ending is definitely the hardest part in the game so far. Chapter 6, well, starts about the same difficulty as Chapter 5, but the end, oh my god, is way harder than anything Chapter 5 gave you. Chapter 7's beginning is a little harder than Chapter 3's, but once you hit 300 meter, the game is about the same difficulty as, well, the end of Chapter 6. Chapter 8 is harder, a lot harder than Chapter 7. Now, the ending does get a little easier, but the end is still harder than Chapter 7. Chapter 9 is, well, hard, very hard. And if you take the gap between Chapter 7 and Chapter 8, then double it, that's about the gap of Chapter 8 and Chapter 9. But it doesn't end there. After the fake hard, the game gets, well, harder, making you have to learn what wave dashing and wall boosting is. And yeah, it's hard, but it gets even harder. There is a last room that is 2 minutes long, and the gameplay is really hard. Celeste's story starts with you wanting to climb a mountain, but you're not a mountain climber. So the character Madeline goes to Mount Celeste. You'll quickly realize you're not alone. You meet a guy named Theo who wants to climb Mount Celeste, but he also wants to blog his journey on a social media platform called Instapics, which is obviously a recreation of Instagram. A little later after meeting Theo, you'll quickly realize that there's a part in your mind telling you you can't do it. That part in your mind is Madeline. Madeline first shows her existence in Old Site, breaking a mirror. Madeline tells Madeline you can't do it. A little later in Old Site, near the end, Madeline will start chasing you, which gives you a sense of anxiety, wondering if you can do this. After she stops chasing you, you go tell your mom about what happened, and, well, it was a dream. Next, Madeline walks up to a creepy resort and meets Yashiro, who owns the resort. But the resort is more like a sludgy mess. Madeline feels bad, so she continues through the resort, Later in the resort, Madeline will meet Theo again in one of the rooms, and Theo asks Madeline if she wants to sneak out, but Madeline being nice to help Yashiro. After Madeline and Yashiro get to the main room, Madeline pops out of another mirror and absolutely roasts Yashiro. Yashiro gets pissed. After Madeline deals with Yashiro's anger issues, she continues until she and Theo get to a gondola, which stops midway, giving Madeline a panic attack. But Theo is there for the rescue, telling Madeline about how you think of a feather and moving it up and down depending on when you breathe. After the gondola, you start to see a temple, but Theo gets excited and runs in the temple without Madeline. And Madeline tries to follow but loses Theo. But a little later down the temple, Madeline will see them in a mirror. Confused, she continues down the path. A little later, Madeline meets a huge mirror, and she gets stuck in it like Theo. Then, she gets in an argument with Madeline, and a little later meets Theo again in a glass cage this time. So Madeline continues on and finally gets to Theo, and she helps Theo and her get out of the mirror world. After getting out of the mirror temple, Theo and her take a break. But later that night, Madeline goes to confront Madeline and tell her that she doesn't need Madeline anymore, and Madeline gets pissed. Knocking Madeline down the whole mountain, Madeline goes to talk to her again, sparkling another conflict. After Madeline absolutely smacks Madeline then gets sad. But Madeline then realizes she needs Madeline, giving Madeline a pep talk, making Madeline realize that she is meaningful and Madeline needs her. Then Madeline's hair turns pink, which shows she has 2 dashes and also shows how she got rid of her fear of climbing the mountain. So they continue up and finally get to the top. If you would like to go into the Celeste story in a little more in depth, go watch the video by Transparency. It'll be in the description. Celeste post-game content is great. To start, there is Core and Farewell. Core is bad, but Farewell is amazing. There is also all B-sides and C-sides, which are harder versions of each chapter. After you do all of them, you can lastly get all golden berries, all berries, and moonberries. Berries are the game's collectible, which have a little challenge to get them. Golden berries are really hard to get. Almost all golden berries are beating a chapter deathless, and yes, that includes B and C sides. There is also a winged golden berry that is beating Forsaken City dashless. The moonberry is a secret path that you can take at the very end of Farewell, and gives you a secret challenge that is hard. Celeste is one of the best games to speedrun, but why? Well, the game was made to be speedrunned, but how is Celeste speedrun so fast? Well, supers, hypers, ultras, wall boosting, corner boosting, and wave dashing. But what is all this speed tech? Supers are a dash, then a jump. Keep in mind that the dash is parallel to the ground. Hypers are the same as supers, but instead you do a diagonal dash into the ground, which gives a lot more forward momentum. Ultras are when you diagonal dash down after you have a lot of speed. Now keep in mind that the dash has to be in the air, not the ground. Wall boosting is when you dash parallel to a vertical wall, then jump. Corner boosting is when you dash into a corner of a wall, and you hit jump, creating a lot of momentum, creating things like this.
Bonk.
Wave dashing is kind of like hypers, but you jump before you do the first dash. But why is wave dashing useful? Well, wave dashing is a way easier way to extend or keep your dash after the jump. But there's a little more things you should know. Now, about hypers and supers, you can extend and reverse. Extending a jump is when you delay the jump after you do the dash, so you continuously have the dash back. Reverses are a lot more complicated than extending. Reversing is when you dash with your joystick in the opposite direction. Then you do a jump and reverse your thing in the direction you want to go. As I don't have a computer to play these mods, let me just say they look amazing. In Celeste there are two main mods, which is Spring 2022 Community Collab and Strawberry Jam, which both use lobby format, which to explain what that is there are 5 different lobbies: beginner, intermediate, advanced, expert, and grandmaster, which each lobby has 15 to 30 mini short levels, which have their own gimmicks and own looks. Hello, it's me, and I just want to say I hope everyone enjoyed the video. If you liked it, please sub. This is my first retrospective, so if you would suggest a retrospective I could do next, go ahead.